Macworld Podcast. I'm Roman Loyola here with Jason Cross.
Good morning.
And Michael Simon.
Hello, sir.
The new iPad Pro and iPad Air are due out this week, and we've learned a little bit more about them since their reveal at the Let Loose event on May 7th. So we're going to talk about the latest iPad news on today's show. That's 2 iPad shows in a row. That might be a first for us, or at least a first in a very long time.
Well, they finally released some iPads, so what are you going to do?
More than a year between releases, you know.
I know, a year and a half.
Yeah.
And these iPads, or at least the Pros, actually did something new for a change.
Yeah.
Like they're actually some difference here.
Yeah. Well, let's kick things off with the early reviews by the usual venues. We're not going to dive deep into those reviews because, you can go listen to those podcasts and hear about those reviews directly. But the benchmarks have shown up for the M4 chip in the iPad Pro. The M4 is the newest in the M series chips, and Geekbench early results for the 10-core CPU. They're showing a 25% multi-core boost over the M3 and about a 50% boost increase over the M2. I think that's basically what Apple said it was going to do.
Yeah, and also based in line with our expectations. The M4 seems maybe slightly more powerful. Jason could correct me if I'm wrong about that. But
it does.
It's in line with what we thought.
Yeah, it's not crazy. Especially the single core, single threaded speed pickup of like 25% is more than you would normally expect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing some good work there. I think it's funny that Qualcomm came out and talked about their Snapdragon X Elite beating the M3, months ago. But the devices aren't coming out till this summer. They're right on the verge of them releasing the first actual laptops that use this, Windows laptops. And they're like, look, we're faster than the M3.
Yeah.
And it had like a single core score of about 2,800 and a multi-core score of about 14,000 and change, 15,000 tops. And that's Qualcomm's numbers. That's like going to be the best case. And then so we were all like, well, yeah, but they're not out yet. And it's not going to be long before Apple has M4. M4 comes out sooner than expected in an iPad. It's destroying them in single core performance. Like just like 3,700. Like it's like another 900 point. It's not even close. And it's tying them in multi-core performance. So now it's over. Like already that the Snapdragon X Elite laptops aren't out yet, and they can no longer say we're beating Apple.
And we already had questions about those claims.
Yeah.
Plus battery life, plus all the things that go with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Who wants to bet which one uses more battery?
Right.
Right.
Which one uses more power to get those results?
Speaking of battery life, while we're here, it's a little frustrating that since the first iPad came out in 2010, Apple has rated it, and it's gotten maybe within an hour or two 10 hours of battery life.
Yeah,
always. It doesn't matter what iPad you buy, what chip you have, what generation you have. When you buy it new, it is rated for 10 hours of battery, and it gets about that. Yeah. My question is why? Why can't Apple make an iPad Pro that lasts, 15, like an iPad, like a MacBook Air, like 18 hours or whatever it is?
Right.
Why is it refused?
It's a cost thing because if you look at the size, the physical size, not the capacity, the batteries in an iPad Pro.
Yep.
Right. But I haven't seen teardowns of the new ones yet, but like the last gen's iPad Pro, and you look at them, you could buy batteries that same physical size that have a higher capacity. They make them.
Sure.
It just costs a little more.
Sure.
So like Apple's just decided that's what they need, and let's save money on battery and just put like a lower capacity battery in there at that same volume. And you got to know they could have done it because this new iPad is way slimmer. way slimmer. Like the internal space it has is a lot less, and yet it's the same battery
It's
life.
the same battery life. Well, because they touted the new chip and the efficiency and all that stuff. So
Sure.
but that's
the OLED, tandem OLED, and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But
it's the same with Apple Watch. Like all the internal changes that they make, the benchmark is still going to be 18 hours. Like we're going to get an 18-hour battery life on the Apple Watch for the next 5 years. That's just what it is. They're not going to give us the Ultra is the one with more battery life, but with the iPad Pro, the people that use it, it's a small market. They're presumably using it Final Cut Pro, Logic, things that take up processing power and battery life. You could probably use 15 hours of battery life would be a selling point for that group, I think.
Yeah, being able to do all your high-end stuff for 5 or 6 hours instead of 4 hours or whatever, whatever it turns out through when you're doing big Final Cut and Logic stuff. I mean, it just came out today that the new iPads, the Pro and the Air, have that 80% charge limit that the iPhone 15 does. You always have that optimized battery charging where it like looks at your habits and only charges to 80% when it feels like it, and you won't need more. But the iPhone 15 has a third option that says just always 80%.
80%. Yeah.
Just stop me there.
Right.
And when I need to go on a long trip and I'm going to be away from a charger in the woods, I will charge it to 100 myself. I will go turn this off.
Right.
Which is smart. That is going to make your battery last a long time. And an iPhone 15 for most people, if you only charge to 80% and you started there and you just trick your brain, that's what a full charge is. It's still going to last you all day. It's fine, right? So it would be great to have more battery in an iPad Pro and be able to hit that, just do that 80% charge limit all the time until I'm getting on a plane, and save the battery life. Just make the battery last longer, not a charge, but like make its longevity, its, cycles.
The physical years that it lasts, that it charges to the full capacity.
Yeah. So, it would be great. Having said that, it is very impressive that they managed to trim off this much thickness,
bulk,
and a significantly faster processor and a significantly brighter OLED display, and still get
10 hours of battery. I agree. I'm not criticizing what the iPad does. It's a funny thing that
why is the iPad Air, which is thicker and an M2 and not dual OLED, blah blah blah, at
also get 10 hours of battery?
Like, why is it 10 hours? Like, why just
Could you have spent
$4 more on your battery from your battery supplier, getting a battery with 20% more capacity? Like, they probably could have. If they want to save, $4 an iPad.
And it's probably low on the list of feature requests. The people
because it's enough
for
right. Yeah. Back on the chip, we got a couple of user comments. At Steve W928 said that the processor really won't change much of anything until it has a competitive GPU. And at Lukewarm said, the real revolution is machine learning and local AI. 16-core neural engine is not enough.
Number of cores in a neural engine means nothing. I mean,
we don't really know.
We don't know what's a core.
Right.
We haven't seen. I haven't seen the benchmarks for the neural engine benchmarks. Those are
there were some that were leaked. The reviews.
There were some early ones.
They didn't really get into that. I'm not 100% sure why. That's
a separate benchmark. It's new. It's changing frequently. It's not even a 1.0 benchmark yet. There's no other good way to benchmark it, but it seems to be kind of the same as the one in the iPhone 15, and we'll hear more about AI and on-device AI processing and all that other stuff at WWDC. They're just the hardware's a little ahead of the software there. That's fine. Apple's way ahead of everyone else in a neural engine on device, except for unless you do a big desktop PC with a GeForce 4080 in it or something like that. That's got built-in neural processing that is fast. Plus, the GPU does it crushes anything Apple has. But any sort of laptop chip, they're all coming out with these neural engines now that are 20 trillion operations a second or something, and it's great. But Apple's at double that, so it's pretty good. I think that's fine. The GPU thing I thought was weird. It doesn't certainly doesn't matter in an iPad. The GPU is plenty fast for a tablet, especially a thin tablet like that. But when we get to the Mac, it's not a competitive GPU with desktop Windows PCs or PC laptops that have discrete GPUs. It's pretty competitive with integrated GPUs on the PC side, but that's a low bar to clear. So
I remember back, I guess, in the Bitcoin frenzy, NVIDIA GPUs were, all the rage. Is Apple at a disadvantage when it comes to AI stuff because the GPU isn't as powerful as those? Not really, iPad, but just the whole
not really, because the stuff the GPU stuff you're going to run on your own local machine isn't the limitation is not GPU processing power for most people. Unless you're doing AI research where you're training models on your home computer, but you're doing most of that stuff in the cloud, and it's still NVIDIA GPUs are all the rage. They make GPUs specifically for this to have a ton of memory, and they can't sell them fast enough. They cost $10,000 each, and they're for cloud servers. So for what you're doing on your local machine, the fact that they have extremely fast memory, and it's unified system memory that the CPU and GPU access equally, and the neural processor and everything else, that's actually an advantage for Apple. So when it comes to the consumer grade, what they call inferencing, I'm running the finished AI models on my local machine. Apple's kind of got an advantage just because of the way their RAM is structured, and that they have a neural engine, a pretty fast GPU, and a fast CPU, all using that same chunk of memory. They've got they're in a good place there. The problem, of course, is always that they don't give you enough RAM, and you can't buy more. It's pretty good, and if it's a Mac Studio, for example, is going to be a great sort of home AI machine.
Yeah,
but if you're seriously doing AI research, training models, stuff like that, you're renting a cloud server with an H100, and it's not even close. It's many times faster than anything Apple's going to put on your desktop.
So we were talking about the battery, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the thickness or the thinness of the iPad Pro. And so when Apple revealed the thickness or thinness, I don't even know whether to call it thickness or thinness of the iPad Pro. It's the 13-inch iPad Pro at 5.1 millimeters is the thinnest device they've made. So there are concerns about whether that makes that device durable enough, whether we're going to have another Bendgate on our hands. And John Turnus and Greg Was, is it Josiak? How do you say his last name?
Just call him Jaws.
Correct, Jaws. Let's call him Jaws. They did an interview with Mr. Who's the Boss, the YouTuber, and they talked about a cowling that is in the iPad Pro. For those who don't know, a cowling is basically like a metal shield. Yeah. They use a cowling in the motherboard or the logic board of the iPad Pro, and that ends up not just dissipating the heat, but it adds a little bit of durability to it. So theoretically it
Yeah.
shouldn't bend.
And the frame has been updated enough. Yeah, it should be as hard to bend as a last gen iPad, at least, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. So they say. I'm sure Jerry rigs everything will, scratch it, burn it, drop it, and bend it, and do all the things he does. God bless him for doing all that. And we'll find out.
Yeah, and it's not going to survive all of that. We don't expect it to.
No,
The
it's like
question
at
is,
what
can you
point
throw
does
it in
it
a
break is
backpack
the
and
question.
not have it come out and be slightly warped like the
Yeah.
2018 model was? To be fair, so that was I didn't realize when I was writing that story last week, or Roman wrote it and I edited that. So the 2018 model, like that just went away. That bend gate thing. We don't know if Apple changed something, if it was like early in the production line. Like it literally just one day, no one talked about it anymore. And there was no, usually like there's a recall or there's some kind of a note that from the Apple retail store, like this is what happened. So we don't know what that was about. It was a real thing and fairly widespread,
sure.
but then it hasn't. They came out with 3 models since then that presumably haven't had this issue, and if it has, it's been in such small numbers that it hasn't reached the public.
I mean, I'm sure all they have to do is change the side parts of the frame by an extra 0.5 millimeter thick, and then it resists the whatever it is. It's just like a small engineering change.
Yeah.
But we would hope that their process around testing is good enough that they are sure that the new iPad's not going to bend and stay bent. That was a trip too, because you would see some of them that like you would put it on a table and you could just like sit there and watch it rock. It was bent.
Yeah,
it was now permanently slightly curved,
for sure,
and you could never unsee it, and it would never lay flat. And you were just like, well, okay.
And like there were photos of people like holding it up, and it was obviously bent. And Apple at the time said, well, it falls within our specifications. Like, I don't think so. Like, that's really like if I spent $1,200 on an iPad and that's how it looked after a couple of weeks, I would not be happy.
and you can't just like say, well, we've got a spec. Like I didn't go buy it and there's like a little warning that says like, warning, this product may become permanently bent. Like, and it's intended to. Like, no, you can't just go like, it's made to do that.
If you do end up cracking the screen somehow, you can get a screen replacement, and it was revealed that screen replacements for the iPad Pro and iPad Air are $29 if you're under Apple Care Plus, which I think it's $149 at the time of purchase for like 2 years or something like that.
It varies per iPad.
Okay.
I don't remember. Let me look it up really quick. I don't remember what it is for the Pro.
Yeah. But this $29 plan is basically kind of the same plan that's available for the iPhone.
The question is, what does it cost if you don't have Apple Care Plus?
Right. Yeah.
Because those the dual tandem OLED, blah blah.
I would rather get Apple Care than an iPhone case, and that's what I do. Like if I drop it, I'll just bring it to the Apple store. It's going to cost you what, $50-$60 for a good case. At like launch time, they obviously go down in price pretty quickly. But if you buy a new iPhone's 15, 16, whatever you're going to buy this year, it's going to cost you, $40-$50 for a good case. Just get Apple Care. You'll be covered, peace of mind and all that stuff. And if you drop it and break the screen, it's what, $29 to fix it.
I mean, it kind of everyone's different. It depends on what you do with it. I feel like a lot of people, especially women who like put their phone in a purse every day, like there's all these things to scratch up the surface.
Sure.
If you care about that, and if you care about that, like a case, but you can get one of those super ultra thin cases where it's not really drop protection, it's just good scratch protection stuff. Always get a screen guard. I'm like 100% get it. That will save your glass. Your front glass.
Those I can't stand screen. I just don't like them. I don't like how they feel. I don't like. There's always like a bubble that drives me nuts.
Oh
Like
man,
I can't.
you can get good ones now that come with nice little trays to align. You put your phone in, it's like shaped to your tray so it aligns it, and you just kind of squeegee it on there and it's perfect. You like people can't even tell I've got one on my phone. And it feels normal and it's right there up to the edge and it's perfectly aligned, and they're easy to do now if you just buy one of those ones that comes with the little plastic like alignment tray thing. And yeah, I recommend those. That makes a world of difference to the real problem, which is dropping your phone and then the screen shatters.
Just real quick to circle back. So AppleCare Plus costs. iPad, the 13-inch iPad Pro would cost $169 for 2 years. The 11-inch costs $149 for 2 years. The 13-inch Air costs $99 for 2 years. The 11-inch costs $79, and the other two iPads, the iPad Mini, cost $69 for 2 years. And there's also monthly plans that you can get as well.
But I think the screen replacement, the $29 plan, is only available for these new Pro and Air models. I don't think it's a retroactive.
It does, yes.
Plan,
So it was the iPad and iPad Mini and older iPads, if you have AppleCare for those, it was $49 until now. So that's interesting that it went down to, like, I don't keep track of AppleCare prices. Did AppleCare, the cost of AppleCare, go up with the new iPad Pro and Air? I don't know.
I don't know.
Remember, but I do remember from the iPhone 14 on, from the non-Pro iPhone 14 and then the iPhone 15 generation, they made the structure so that it's much easier to take the fronts and backs off and repair for the shops to do these things. So I think it's just a less complicated repair process. Is maybe part of it, and hopefully they brought that to the iPads as well. Yeah,
so $29 to fix a 13-inch tandem OLED display. I mean, that's not bad at all. Apple could easily say, "Well, this is a high quality display right? Here. This is $80."
Yeah, that's your copay when you have insurance. Essentially, like that's right.
Yeah.
But if you don't have insurance, I wonder how much they would charge you. I don't know that price is up on the site yet.
No, I couldn't
officially
find
it. There were tomorrow,
I saw a tweet or whatever you call it now that someone had gone through the thing, and I think it was like $1,000. Like there was no option to just fix the screen. Like you just got to get a new one.
It's crazy. It's going to be crazy expensive. So
yeah. So since these items are expensive, you want to take good care of them. And one way you can take good care of them is to get a polishing cloth to wipe down your iPad screen. If you order the nano texture iPad Pro with 1 or 2 terabytes, Apple throws in that polishing cloth. So you don't have to pay the extra $19. It just comes with it. So
I hear the polishing cloth is actually quite nice.
It is nice. I have one.
Not that you should spend $20. What do they normally cost?
$19.
Yeah, $19.
Oh yeah, always ends at a 9. $19. Not that it's $19 nice, but it's not just any old microfiber. Like it is a little different.
Yeah, they don't call it a microfiber cloth, but it probably is, but a nicer microfiber. Yeah.
It should be noted that nano texture glass, Roman, you've used devices with it. It's very specific to your needs, and most people would probably prefer the standard glass. You get it adds like a matte coating to it, but that also kind of dulls some of that vibrancy of the iPad, particularly the deep blacks. The texture of the screen is different. It's not something like, oh, that's cool. Like you really have to know that you need it if you're doing, visual video work in like a really bright environment, and you have a very bad glare on the screen, and you're not getting like true to life representation. Like that's like the only reason why you would really need it. Otherwise, even if you're getting that 1 terabyte model, I would stick with the standard glass and unfortunately buy the polishing cloth separately. It's still going to cost you $80 less.
It is nice that it's only $100 more for the nanotexture thing, which is not insane.
It's not at all. No, it's not.
It is a little high for like really the anti-glare. Anti-glare is $100, but it's considering that it's literally a different piece of glass that has to be specially made. It's not a ridiculous upcharge.
I agree, but just know what you're getting.
All matte screens are like that, where they have a little less glare. They spread out the glare, so you don't get these like hard reflections. But they do reduce contrast kind of a little bit.
Yeah. Apple released iPadOS 17.5, iOS 17.5 as well, and the new iPads will come with 17.5. Is there anything remarkable about 17.5?
It's if you're in the EU, it enables downloading apps from websites, but there's a bunch of caveats. Like Apple will only, on a case-by-case basis, like approve that, and you have to already be like a developer that's been in the App Store for 2 years with like 1 million plus sales and all. And like there's the bar to clear. There's going to be like 3 apps in the world that are downloadable from websites. They made it as hard as possible. There's some changes to the news app that allow for like offline news reading, but the main thing is Apple and Google have been working together on a cross-platform way to detect unwanted trackers coming with you. We've had this before where, your iPhone will notify you if an unknown AirTag is traveling with you. But what about a tag from that's not an AirTag or a Find My compatible thing? And the same with Google. Like, what if someone plants an AirTag on you and you've got a Pixel, right? So they've worked together and made a system where unwanted item trackers following you will work cross-platform, and this enables that for them. And Google's already got it on their side through a Play services update. They come with 17.5, but there is a day one software update available on the iPads. It's still 17.5. It's just, I guess, like a less beta version of it.
Yeah, they often do that. There's like a specific thing they're fixing.
By the way, if maybe the most important thing in 17.5 is there's like 15 security updates. I'm not just blowing out a number. Literally 15. There's a ton. So, and they affect everything from like maps and notes and screenshots being able to be shared and all kinds of stuff. So just grab, if for no other reason, just the security thing. Update to 17.5.
Our last topic for today's show involves Apple's Crush ad. This is the ad that they revealed during the Let Loose event. It was an ad that showed a press crushing a bunch of items. They're trying to convey the idea that you can take all these different tools and get them all in the iPad. Turns out there was a backlash against this ad.
Yeah.
And people didn't like the message that it was being sent. Or how about this? I'll say it this way. People were misinterpreting the message that was being sent, or they didn't like the idea that it could be easily misinterpreted. See, this is what I'm talking about. The arguments about it, people hating it, were so convoluted to me that I was kind of like, oh my God.
It can easily be misinterpreted. No, I wouldn't say misinterpreted, because who's to say? It's not like they said this is what it means.
Commercial, yeah.
It could easily be interpreted as all of this stuff is obsolete. Replace it with this gadget.
Yeah.
And at a time when artists are feeling extremely pressured about how they're being replaced by technology, especially like AI and stuff, it's easy to see here there's that message of like pianos and everything else, like all of this stuff that you spent all of your art career perfecting your craft on is garbage, and we're replacing you replacing art and artists and art stuff and everything else with a gadget.
I like Roman did not really get offended or really. When I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, that was clever." I didn't see it, but as Jason says, like I can understand. It was a very violent ad in the sense that these things are really getting crushed.
It is kind of
Like there was a trumpet that was crushed, a metrodome, a piano that was shattered. Like one of those artist models was like squished. Like it was, if you're an artist, and as Jason said, like this is a rough time to be an artist. For one, people don't want to pay for anything. For two, streaming services are struggling, a lot of them. And for three, AI is knocking on the door and saying, hey, we can do this stuff that you do for nothing. Like you don't even have to pay us.
Yeah, so, everybody wants to replace your any fine artist or musician or anything with AI. So yeah, they feel under threat. It just, if anything else, it's sort of maybe a little tone deaf of Apple.
A little bit, I can see why especially from like the company that like, Apple has championed artists forever. Like they're the one. Like if you're creative, come and use our devices, and we've got your back. We're going to support you. We're going to listen to you. And, they came out with this commercial that said, all right, all that stuff that you use, like just crush it because we don't need it anymore. You just buy
all
this.
You need is an iPad,
$2,000 iPad, and it can do all
that. So yeah, I can see why it wasn't, and like you, Mike, when I saw it, I didn't take that away from it. I took away I thought
that's clever. Yeah,
thing. I was like, they're doing like the hydraulic press,
which is a thing. Like
YouTube.
There's TikTok videos and YouTube video, like shorts. Like it's a thing. It's a popular.
Yeah. But I also can see why, for a company like Apple, maybe they should have talked to an artist before.
Yeah, or showed it to a focus group of some sort. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I feel like So they didn't pull it, as far as I know. It's still on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
But they were, and it's Tim Cook blasted it on X on his feed. Mm-hmm. But and that none of that was taken down. But there was going to be a TV ad buy and stuff with a TV length versions of that.
Yeah,
and they just canceled that. So. Which is probably smart.
Probably, yeah. And they didn't they could have explained it like, oh, well, it's all CGI and we didn't actually break anything. And blah. They just said, listen, we're sorry. It wasn't our best moment. We're not going to run it. And that was it. It was a contrite moment. It immediately killed all of the outrage. And that was it. It's over.
Nobody will care in a few weeks.
Nobody cares.
Yeah. They probably could have modified it to have some sort of tagline where it says something like all you need, all you need for all your art is in iPad or some kind of thing, just to get the right message. But it's safer just to pull it. They'll run some other ads, I'm sure. I'm sure they've got plenty of other.
Somebody
things.
made a version of it where it basically just does it in reverse, and it was surprisingly effective. And people would have probably really responded to that in a different way. Like it starts with the thing and then it opens and all the things come back to life.
Yeah,
or come back to their true form, whatever.
Yeah, it's like start with an iPad and then you just unsmush it and everything comes out of it.
Right.
That's a cool idea. They should have done that. Yeah, just run it backwards.
Yeah, that's almost literally all it was. And
Kenny J. Miller said, Steve Jobs would have basically given them all the middle finger and made some acerbic comment, putting them all in their place.
That's actually probably true.
Yeah, maybe.
Lakeside Ruin said it was in bad taste. It communicated the wrong message while trying to be clever, and it was smart to jump ship and disown it right away.
Yeah. That's all. I agree with that as well. Let's keep going. I like all these hot things.
Well, there's one more, and Paul J. Elliott said, "There's an awful lot Apple has to apologize for, from the crush ad to its crushing price gouging and misleading marketing claims."
Here we go. Okay,
drop the mic.
Well, misleading marketing claims. I don't think they're any more misleading than literally any company.
Yeah,
but I hear you on the price thing. Like
they
They could do better on some of these prices.
I mean, we
sure.
expected the iPad Pro to cost more. I feel like $200 is on the low end of what we thought it would cost for a tandem OLED screen, for an M4 processor, for it's a pretty cutting edge tablet. And it's not like Samsung is rolling out 13-inch tablets that are, $600. Like they're charging a bit too. So, it's a lot. $1,000 and up is a lot for an iPad. However, they also cut the price of the 10th gen, which for most people. So my mom's iPad, she had a really old, I want to say like a 6th gen probably. And, she called me up last week and said, like it won't hold the battery anymore. What's going on? I'm like, well, it's like 5 years old or 6 years old. It was very old. This was actually before the event, but I went on Amazon and I got her the 10th gen, which was on sale for $349 at the time. So I got the same price.
Mm-hmm.
And she loves it, like loves it. So for 90% of people who are going to get an iPad, the iPad Air, I think, isn't necessary at all in their lineup. I think the iPad Pro is great for people who want a high-end iPad. I think the 10th gen model at $349 is absolutely perfect. And the iPad Air, in between those two, if you don't want a Pro, what you can need that's not in that low-end model. I just don't, I don't know. A slightly faster chip that you really aren't going to notice. The screen's the same size. I mean, you get laminated versus non-laminated. I guess the new pencil, maybe, yeah.
Support for the new pencil, and just like it's more powerful. Like if you need,
it's more powerful.
Like you could also say, kind of just as easily that the iPad Pro has no place. Like, what do you need that you don't get in an iPad? It doesn't
have a place, but
like, do you really need dual tandem OLED? Blah blah.
No,
because or to be a little bit thinner, it's nice. It is nice. Don't get me wrong. But I do think there has to be a place for something in the middle because the gap between $349 and $1,000 is wide.
It is.
It makes more sense now than it did a year ago when the gap was much smaller.
Yeah,
and it just felt like
the 11-inch iPad Pro started at $799, and the iPad Air started at $599 for the same screen, and that was like, well, this makes no sense. Yeah, I agree. $400 is better to put between them, I guess. It makes it easier. But I feel like the iPad Air exists to push people higher and lower.
Yeah, it's the Pro Lite is
very few people are going to settle on that model unless they get it for a great price on Amazon or something.
Yeah, maybe. Although,
if you see them in the store next to each other, I mean, the 10th gen and the 11-inch iPad Air, they practically look the same. It's really hard to tell the difference between those two.
You know what I think is going to sell really well? The 13-inch Air, the new
maybe
size.
So. That's a different thing because that's a new size. Yeah, I agree with that.
And the 13-inch Pro is very expensive. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it starts at 13.
It gets you in, and that's the cheapest you can get a 13-inch. There's no 13-inch 10th gen or whatever. So if you want a big iPad, now you've got a better deal. It's an M2. It's great. Yeah. So it supports the new Pencil Pro.
The M2 processor in an iPad is more than enough.
It's more than enough.
Yeah. Well, that does it for this episode of the Macworld Podcast, episode 884. Thanks to Jason Cross.
Thank you.
Thanks to Michael Simon.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks to you, the audience. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to the Macworld Podcast in the podcast app, on Spotify, or through any other podcast app. If you have any comments or questions, send us an email at podcast@macworld.com or contact us through X, that's @Macworld, or on Threads, that's @Macworld_HQ, or on the Macworld Facebook page. Join us in the next episode of the Macworld Podcast as we talk about the latest in the world of Apple. See you next time.